So, how many were here, part one? Okay, so a lot weren't. What I'm going to encourage you to do is, on the sign-in sheet, on my sign-in sheet out front, say session one. And that way I'll know to send you the handouts from session one, because there was some really good juicy stuff that I wouldn't want you to miss. So I'm going to do a little recap, but mostly what I wanted to do today was to give you the experiential piece of sitting and working with a couple. That's why the chairs back there are kind of set up a little bit disastrously, okay? Great. So, recap. Connection is our true nature. We are mammals, and if you have Facebook, you will come across all kinds of adorable videos of the deer playing with the dog, and the cats and the dogs, and every mixed kind of combination of mammal that you can find is seeking connection and warmth with each other, even intraspecies. So that's what we're here to talk about today, is intraspecies relationships, right? Well, it kind of is when you're talking about man and women relationships. It is a little bit sometimes intraspecies. But just like connection is our true nature for purposes of protection, think of gangs and tribes and communities, the way we come together that help us survive. Part of survival, that hardwiredness, also gets in the way. That's the part that we're going to talk about a little bit today. So while connection is our true nature, so what happens is survival is also our true nature. And particularly when you're talking about perceived threat, which can be anywhere from being chased by a saber-toothed tiger to your spouse, criticizing you for leaving your underwear on the floor or not putting your dishes in the dishwasher. Perceived threat hits the same part of your brain, and that's the reptilian brain. What will the reptiles do? Fight, flight, or freeze. And those are their responses when they feel threat. And that's our responses when we feel threat. Okay, but it doesn't work so well. Okay, so here's ways of getting at it. Part of what triggers that reptilian mode is perception. So, if you look at this, do you see a frog, or do you see something else? Yay, horsey girls. Okay, right. So, the first image that most people see is frog, but if you turn your head a little bit, there's a horsey head kind of looking up, and the mane is down here. Y'all see the horsey now? Okay. Right, so perception is really cool, but when we have differences of opinion and perception in our relationships, it doesn't feel so cool, right? So what typically happens is, who remembers the dress that broke the internet? Is it blue, is it gold, is it this, is it that? There were tweets going around from heads of state to celebrities to normal folks, you and me, but the venom, almost, with which people were saying, what the blank is wrong with you, you blankety blank blanks? It's blue, or it's, and I had to write a blog piece on it because I was so amazed that people could get so passionate and worked up about a dress. Simple, like, bridesmaid's dress, it doesn't matter. So typically what happens is, if you have a different opinion than I do, clearly I have not given you enough information, so I'm just going to talk some more until you see that I'm actually right and you are wrong. We do not have this paradigm that we can both hold different perspectives and opinions and both be 100% right. It is a frog or it is a horse, they're both 100% right. So the work that we're going to do in a little bit is helping people cross the bridge to see and hear and feel and experience the other person's perspective. Encounter-centered couples therapy is not a modality that a lot of people have heard of. There's a master therapist by the name of Eddie Schleicher, and she was a master Imago trainer, and then she developed this. Okay. And she came up with the 3 invisible connectors. And one is the relational space, and it's what we create by what we put into that space in our relationship. So if you choose to put in love and authentic curiosity and nurturing and caring and safety. Oh, it's this like soft, juicy kind of space. And everybody around you lives in that space. If you have kids, they absolutely live in that space. If you have pets, they live in that space. And so when you put all that good juicy stuff in it, you're like magnets that attract. But if you put into that space brightness, fear, pride, distance, they're like the magnets that repel. Right? So we are all responsible for putting in 100% into that space, not just 50-50 to create where we want to be. So that's the relational space. It's sacred space. The bridge is what's going to get you from your world into my world. And I'm going to kind of coach you through it as we do it. But it's a very, very narrow bridge. There's no room for emotional baggage, and there's no room for contraband. Like security officer, very tight. Contraband in your pockets is fear and pride and greatness, and my story to the exclusion of your story. Okay, so no contraband in the pockets. And the encounter, that's the blissful part. Because when you've left all the contraband on your side of the bridge, and you really have crossed with a true curiosity to figure out what the reality is like in your partner's world, right? This is your partner that you love. At the moment you may be really pissed off or frustrated, whatever with your partner, but you've chosen to come together. And so that's the encounter. And it's an amazing connection when you're both putting in 100% of that good, soft, sweet, juicy, loving, nurturing energy. Okay? Now, a lot of people think that the best way to avoid conflict is to avoid anger. That anger is a bad thing. Anybody think anger is a bad thing? That's good. Right. So anger is not a bad thing. That's not the purpose of dialoguing or crossing the bridge. But it's being able to communicate it in a place of owning your own feelings and letting the other person know why you're feeling what you're feeling. So it's kind of like I'm going to put down on the table some of the jigsaw puzzle pieces, and that's just my side of the story. This is the way I perceive it and I feel about it. And then when my partner responds, he's going to put his pieces of the jigsaw puzzle down too, so that by the time we're done, there's a whole bunch of pieces there. And we can both kind of sit back and go, oh, I see what the picture is now, as opposed to just mine and yours. So you both want to get on the same side of it, and the bridges help do that. When we're not connected, when we're in survival mode, and by the way, so if you were here the first time and you remember, part of that attachment to rightness is from the time we're born, the first 18 months of our life, the part of our brain that grows the fastest is the limbic system. And that helps us understand all the nonverbals for mommy and daddy, facial expressions, so that when I look into your face as an infant, right, and I go coo, 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 and you go goo, 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 goo back, and we have this really lovely dance of attunement, right? It's like, oh, my world is good and safe because you're going to feed me and protect me. But if you're having a rotten day, it's you just dropped the mayonnaise on the floor and you have this frown, and you look at me, it's like, oh my gosh, my world just fell apart. Because that look of anger that has nothing to do with me makes me feel very unsafe, because I'm only safe in this world when I'm connected to those that love me and protect me. Because if I'm not attuned to you, thank you, limbic system, and you're not attuned to me, if I can't recognize that in your face, then you're going to leave me out in the snow and the wolves are going to eat me. So we are super, super, super hardwired to make sure that you're smiling and going goo goo gaga with me, right? So that's why it's often so important that we get our partners to go, yes, I get it, and you're right. We think that's what we really want to hear. You're right, because that means we're still connected. But we have other ways of doing that. And I'm kind of rushing through because I really want to get to the juice of it. So just touching back a little bit, in the space in between, it's in the handouts, but you can just, I'm not going to read this because you guys have eyes. It just talks a little bit about really, really the sacredness of the space. Rumi says it beautifully. I'm not going to read it because I really like her. There's a field beyond right thinking and beyond wrong thinking. I'll meet you there. Which is just so lovely. Because that's what that relational space is about, and that's what you want to help your couples create. And you're really holding that space for them. And it's really interesting. When I first saw Hetty work with couples are going through like heavy stuff, right? And all the therapists in the room are making that, oh, this is heavy stuff. Look, and she's got this beatific smile. So when I took training with her, I asked her about that. Like, how do you have this huge smile? And all of the therapists are going, oh, that's so painful, because we're so empathic and we really feel our couples when they're in pain. And she said, because I invite them to join me. I don't join them in their pain. I invite them to join me in the land of, it's all good. This is all part of the growth and the relationship process. This is how we grow and learn, and if you are a spiritual person or your couples are spiritual, this is like the most amazing spiritual journey possible because it's very other-centered. Right? It's about connecting with the other. So remember that you hold that space for your clients, you hold that hope for your clients, and it's okay. This feels terrible now, but they're really tools to help you do this better. And so you really want to stay in the context of these specific tools, because when you step out of them, you kind of fall off the cliff, then they go back into conversation mode or fight mode, and it doesn't work. Otherwise, they wouldn't show up in your office. Okay? I'm trying to figure out at what point I want triads. So I'm going to go one more slide, I think. Okay. Right. Okay. So the main goal of today's presentation is how to help your couples have a visit. Imago therapy would call it a dialogue, an Imago dialogue. Like I said, Hetty Schleifer was an Imago trainer for years. She calls it the visit, which is really nice because as a host, I want you to be comfortable, right? And I don't want to be rude to you, and I certainly don't want to overwhelm you with this verbal barrage and assault. I just kind of want to gently show you around my world. Because my world is very different than yours. There's a different terrain, landscape, language, people. It's all different. So I'm going to invite you to cross the bridge. And what does a good guest or visitor say? Thank you so much for the invitation. And sometimes you can make it, and sometimes you can't. But you always say thank you. Why wouldn't you say, sure? Because maybe it's not a good time. Because if you are physiologically triggered and your reptilian brain is going 1,000,000 miles a minute, you do not want to sit down in that moment because it's going to be a terrible experience for both of you. So if you're still really triggered, you might want to say to your partner who you love but may not be feeling so much in that moment, thank you so much for the invitation. Now is not really a good time. And then you want to be sure and let her or him know when a better time would be, so that that person that you love, but don't feel so connected to in the moment, doesn't feel abandoned. So that it doesn't feel like a big, screw you, I'm not talking to you. I can't talk to you right now. Let's check back in 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes. So thank you for the invitation. Yes. And then be prepared to cross the bridge. And I think at this point I am going to have you kind of go into triads, and this is the way it's going to work. I'm going to go around the room, and every 3 people, I'll let you guys figure it out. One of you is going to be the therapist, one of you is going to be the host, and one of you is going to be the visitor. And so hopefully we have enough triad seats set up. Ready, set, go. The host is the person who's going to extend the invitation. The host is the person who says, there's something on my mind, there's something that's creating this unbalance in the relationship, I'm not feeling comfortable, right? And I want to clear it. I want to get back to connection. Get back to connection. It doesn't have to be huge things. It can be little things, but it's making me feel kind of irritable. So the host extends the invitation to the visitor. So the host is the one with the issue. And by the way, you can completely fake this, but as you probably all felt in grad school, when you really did it for real, with a real issue, you got a lot more out of it. So don't bring a huge issue, because we don't have time for that, unfortunately. But do try and bring something that's real, and you'll be amazed when your partner actually shows up in front of you. It's really interesting. Okay, so that's who the host is. Figure it out, and often Hetty would encourage that whoever is most challenged in being the host, often it's the guys, because they don't want to do a lot of talking. Okay, guys, just stereotypical. Yes?
And the visitor is the partner of the host?
And yes. Yes, what was the question?
Well, one of them was the seating arrangements, right?
Okay, so great. So the couple is sitting very close. In encounter center, they would be sitting so close that one partner's knees are against the chair of the other, and they would be holding hands. And in Imago, they want a little bit of differentiation. But they still want you in limbic range, right? So those mirror neurons are firing, okay? And so close enough, right? And preferably uncrossed legs, uncrossed bodies. Because remember, our limbic systems are working. They're like, we're checking out everybody's body language. Oh, okay, she's not going to listen to me. So uncross, get comfortable, couple face to face. Couple, okay, great. So the first thing is,
You're the host and you're
the first thing is, as the therapist,
the
you want to create the space for your couple. You don't want to just jump into it. There could be a script for this, but trust your guts. That's what makes you good therapists. Trust your guts to welcome them into the room, to remind them why they're here, to look across at each other and say, look who showed up for you. Just taking a moment to get back into attunement, because there's so much noise in the world and so many words that get in the way. So particularly in your office, slow it down. Slowing it down is miraculous. So as a therapist, you're going to take 30 seconds and just invite them into the space, and into their body, and to remember why they're here, to gaze into their partner's eyes, and without words say, you're safe, and you're loved, and I'm glad you're here. And if you were doing Hetty's model, you would be doing it with your hands also. But since you're not really couples, that might be a little weird. Okay? So take 30 seconds as a therapist, and you also as a therapist take a deep breath and trust that you know how to talk to your couples. Okay, so the 30-second intro was just to kind of get everybody into the space. How did that feel for everyone? Were you able to use your own kind of intuition to go in the right places? Couples, did it feel okay, like that was helping you get to where you wanted to be? Okay, great. So first, that's the very first thing. And then you find out who's going to host. And you want to encourage them, somebody's going to have an issue. And even as you're doing that relaxation part, you would say, so as you sit here, and you breathe, and you just notice your breathing, I want you to think back over the past week or two. Were there any blips on the radar? Anything that created disconnection that you want to work through and create connection? And either one of you can raise your hands. But I would encourage you to decide for whom it is going to be the most challenging to host. We women are like, yeah, we'll host, I got stuff to say. And the guys are like, yeah, she can host, it's fine. Right? So you want to let them do what is most challenging, because that's where the growth is. Okay? So take another few moments and figure that out. Every night. So
Can we get one of those?
you have them get centered, you have them connect, you have them figure out who's going to go first. And now you have the host invite. So extending the invitation. And by the way, as a therapist, a really efficient way, I don't know, of helping your couples get the wording is by you saying it first. And you use kind of sign language, you use your hands to indicate that that's what they're going to say. So who's hosting here? You're hosting. Okay. So you would want to say, what's your name? Laura. Oh, hello. Okay. So, Laura, would you like to invite you to cross the bridge?
Laura, I'd like to invite you to cross the bridge.
Great. And I didn't say, okay, so now what you're supposed to, I just said, I looked at her and I went like this, and like, you kind of get it. Okay, so Laura, I'd like you to cross the bridge, and now you say, thank you, because that's what a good guest does. Thank you for the invitation. All right, so as a recap, in a reflective dialogue, an imago dialogue, an encounter center, they're all kind of the same thing. It goes like this. You do not want to overburden your guest. It's not nice. Oh, I'm going to back up. Before they cross the bridge, you want to remind them, it's a very narrow bridge. There's only room for one person to cross at a time. Emotional baggage stays on their side. No contraband. And by the way, therapists, you are the immigration department. Trust your instincts. If you feel stuff that's going across the bridge, you can play with it, but bring it into the room. And when I mean play with it, you can just sit there and go, I get a sense there's some contraband. What might that be? And if they have no idea what you're talking about, you might say, I don't know, I'm feeling like a little anger or a little fear, and play with it. Certainly don't shame them for it, but like help bring their awareness to it. So you are the immigration department, no contraband, and you help keep them regulated. This is so much your job. If you do anything else in the room, it's keep your clients safe. Keep your clients safe so they have a place to do this work. Because if they come into your office and they fight in your office like they do at home, why on earth would they pay you whatever they pay you? Okay? And keep it safe. Keep it soft, keep it loving. And be very honoring of whatever goes on. So if you feel one person is really pissed off and it's not, then it might not be a good time. Okay, that was a lot of talking. Okay, so that's instructions for crossing the bridge. So therapists, tell somebody how to cross the bridge, leaving their stuff on their side. So when they're crossing the bridge, because a lot of people will go, so would you like to cross the bridge? Sure, right? And like, okay, I'm here. It's not that simple because crossing the bridge is really challenging because you've got that little reptile who wants to come with you. You like take your little alligator out for a walk. So encourage them to cross slowly, breathing. That their reptile may get a little triggered and how to regulate that breathing by remembering it is not personal. If you see a frog and I see a horse, it's not personal. It doesn't mean you're wrong, bad, lying, or anything else. It just means you see a frog or a horse, right? So you want to take time. They may say things that are absolutely not your reality, but trust that they're their reality. So when you've landed, you've crossed the bridge, no contraband, no baggage, remembering that this is not personal. I'm just going for a tour over in my partner's land. Let them know I'm here. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so as we move forward, in your handouts, you all have this open. And this is kind of a step-by-step instruction sheet. And there's only one in each triad, but if you've signed up for it, I'm happy to send out, to email out. And also from the first session as well, it says ritual of connection on top. Ritual of connection to visit. And so just use this as your template and think of it as I don't know, the safe place. If you stay in this template with your clients, you can be, because I actually was a client of a fairly mediocre therapist doing imago therapy, and it still worked. It's amazing. If you follow the step-by-step recipe, it works. Yeah.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
We were doing pretty good, always going pretty good. But where I go a little bit stuck is that I asked her if she's feeling my senses of frustration. And she said, yeah, I am frustrated because of the way she feels. Well, my answer was, and it doesn't seem like my answer is that she would like to see the guru emotions.
Right. So
I don't know how to answer that.
exactly with the reptilian brain, meaning, and you're encouraging, like, because of course it's frustrating because you don't understand her perspective yet, right? You haven't seen her puzzle pieces. You don't know anything about Laura Land, right? So hopefully once you cross, then you have all these pieces on the puzzle and you get to take this huge sigh, because now you understand. How many people here who have seen It's Not About the Nail? Oh my goodness, I have to incorporate this into the next presentation. So when you go home today, you're going to go onto YouTube, and you're going to see a short little clip about It's Not About the Nail. And even though this is completely satirical, there's a man and a woman, and what her problem is clearly obvious to the guy, but she doesn't want him fixing the problem. She just wants to know he hears her. And satire or not, when he finally reflects, even in the satire, you feel her go, ah, that's what you're going for, ladies and gentlemen. You're going for that, that he gets me, she gets me, which is so rare in relationships, and that's what you want to teach your couples to do. Okay, so step by step, go ahead and follow this, and we're going to do this for about 15 minutes.
Oh.
Hold on, don't worry, yes, 15. For about 15 minutes. And if you were doing it in your office, there would be time for both people to go, one would respond. But here, it's just one person, and there are 3 steps. So follow the template and raise your hand if you have any questions. So the I hear you is just an absolute reflection of what the partner is saying.
Well, I did.
Therapists, you want to remember to keep it very slow.
You said because we
A
didn't
statement at a time, really encourage the visitor to hear it. And when we've done a real good job and you encourage your visitor to say to the host, is there more? You know, because you're crossing with authentic curiosity. That's why you had this visit. And you will intuitively know, like when you've been heard, the host will go, no, I'm good. Okay. So then you move into the I see you. Anybody here see the movie Avatar? Yes. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So in Avatar, it's a greeting, right, of the indigenous people. I see you, but it didn't mean I see you. It meant like, I see you. I see you as this different and distinct being than me. I see you holistically. I honor that you are different than me. So how do we do that in a dialogue, in a visit? The I see you part is, okay, I want you to know that I have listened to what you had to say, that you're important to me, that what you say is important to me, your perspective is important to me, and, remember this phrase, you make sense. I see you as different than me, and I can still respect that. By the way, it doesn't mean you agree with it. Because your partner is allowed to have a totally different story than you. It doesn't matter. Okay? I see you. Think Avatar. So you're going to summarize what your partner said. You're going to summarize. You're going to let them know you heard. It's important what they had to say. It's important. And you make sense. And if that last line is really, really hard to say because it is so opposed to what your perspective is, you can say, and I can totally see how in your land that would make sense. Okay, I see you. Okay, so moving on to the third part, I feel you, is a stretch of the visitor. Now they've already reflected, meaning I see the host, I see you as different than me, I can see that how you're feeling that way makes sense. And I imagine that you are feeling about this now. That's stretching the empathy muscle. How do you imagine your partner is feeling? And if they go back to the initial words, angry or frustrated or sad or whatever, and they're exact same things, that may be true, but most likely, the fact that the partner has been heard changes everything. Because for somebody to go, okay, so let's say I am the visitor. And I say, well, I imagine he's really pissed off and angry and frustrated and whatever. The same things from the beginning. I would, well, I'm now the client and the therapist. I would say to me, so it sounds like you are unaware of the impact your presence has on your partner. Look at your partner. Does he, she feel the same to you as when you started this dialogue? You did that. You sitting in this chair and reflecting and hearing your partner, you did that. So how do you imagine in this moment having presenced your partner that your partner is feeling? And then go back to script. Okay, so as we finish up the final step, there are so many little tentacles, steps and processes and things that you say to your client, and it takes a while to internalize. So if you haven't signed up on the sign-in sheet out front that has my logo on it, I would encourage you to sign up so that I can email you handouts. And also, if you are interested in assisting at workshops that I give for couples, so that you see, hear, and experience this again and again and again, please also write that down, and I will include you in upcoming workshops. Okay? I don't know what time it is, but if I go by that clock, we have about 5 minutes. We have about 2 minutes. Any burning questions?
Where are your workshops located? Are they kind of local?
They are usually local.
Okay.
They are usually local, but they can be anywhere where people speak Spanish or English.
Are they weeknights normally?
They're usually weekends.
Weekends,
Yeah.
okay, in the evening.
No, it's a full day. It's a full day workshop. Yeah.
The point of this, like, is it to have an end resolution to opening up the whole dialogue, or is it just to kind of open it?
Right. So it's a question that comes up a lot. Okay, great. So you know how I feel, and I feel heard and understood, and that's really nice, but it didn't solve the problem. When you're in survival mode, there is no solving any problem. Once you are in connection and out of survival mode, your creativity flows. It's like work on this together, but as long as you're in that embattled position of my side, your side, you're going to get nowhere. So hear each other's perspectives, hear each other's differences, connect, validate, keep it safe, and then like, okay, so how can we make this better once you're now on the same side of the problem? Or growth opportunity. Depending on what language it is. Welcome, thank you.